Hey, Sens fans, welcome to Season 4, Episode 8 of the Senstennial Podcast. We have a number of topics lined up for tonight, but first we want to discuss something that we believe is important to bring up, as it's something that impacts the entire NHL and really symbolizes the issues with hockey culture. This past Friday, as many of you know, the Boston Bruins signed Mitchell Miller. Miller was a controversial draft pick who was picked in 2020 by the Arizona Coyotes, who later renounced his draft rights when details came to light to the hockey community that Miller had participated in vicious bullying of a classmate named Isaiah Meyer Crothers over several years of his youth. So Miller and his representatives reached out to NHL teams across the league looking for an organization willing to take Miller on, and it was the Boston Bruins who decided to take that gamble and sign him, much to the dismay of really a lot of hockey fans across social media. So the issue is that Miller didn't apologize to the victim. And even though he had messaged the victim on Instagram apologizing, it didn't come across as sincere to the victim, and Isaiah ended up releasing a statement through the Hockey Diversity Alliance, which really outlined this and showed that Miller wouldn't provide proof to Isaiah about the remorseful things he'd done or the efforts he had made in the community to really show remorse for the things he had done to Isaiah as a youth. And that's really disheartening and sad, especially when hockey culture, there's been a lot of negativity about the toxicity in it, and we're trying to come to a place where everybody can be accepting and really just move forward to where there's not all this hateful bigotry in hockey. So essentially, there's been discussion about what the appropriate penance for Miller is as a result of these past actions that he's committed, and whether he deserves a shot in the NHL or another professional hockey league. And really, it's our view that the only person or people who should be making this decision is really the Meyer Crothers family and Isaiah. They should determine whether Miller is done paying for his sins, if you will, and whether he is truly showing remorse and is apologetic for the actions that he did as a youth to Isaiah over years of time. So until such time as he's made that genuine amends for his actions, he really doesn't deserve to be playing in the NHL or for another professional hockey team. Our podcast here, we believe in diversity and inclusion in hockey and believe that we need to use our platform to spread this message because it's extremely important to all of us. So we encourage everyone listening or watching to really join our podcast in making hockey culture more welcoming for everyone. Thank you. Hello, Matt and Bennett. Thank you everyone for listening to that statement that we wanted to make. Let's move on to topics regarding the Ottawa Senators tonight. And first things first, some news that came out recently was that Nikita Zaitsev, who has really been the subject of a lot of criticism by Sens fans on social media, is on waivers. And this is just following Jacob Bernard-Docker making a really good impact on the ice for the Sens, getting an assist in his season debut and playing upwards of 17 minutes and putting up some excellent on-ice results. So, Bennett, we'll kick it off with you. What do you think about Nikita Zaitsev getting waived and JBD kind of making an impact and looks like he's here to stay in at least the short term?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Zaitsev and Marcus Hellberg were both waived by the team today. We're going to find out by noon tomorrow, I believe the deadline is, if any.
2 p.m. now, actually, they moved it.
Oh, it is 2 p.m. now. Okay. So we're going to find out tomorrow afternoon whether anyone has claimed either Hellberg or Zaitsev. Until and unless somebody actually claims him, I'm going to, be worried that he's going to make a comeback at some point. But for now, we can say that it's a step forward for this team, that they have recognized that Zaitsev doesn't belong on an NHL roster and have decided to send him down. In 7 games played, Zaitsev has managed 1 assist. And he is the second worst player in the team in terms of even strength Corsi. However, the most damning stat of all is that the Sens are 0-7 when he's in the lineup. And I actually had to double check this, and I did. And he has lost every game that he has set his feet on the ice this season as a Senator. And the only Sens wins came without him in the lineup. Now, I'm not saying it's an exact 1-to-1, but it's very obvious to anyone who's been watching the Sens the last couple of seasons that Zaitsev is a problem. He makes his team worse. He makes his line mates and the players around him worse. And just every time, just having him in the lineup at all is a liability. So I was very happy to see that he was finally waived by this team earlier today.
That is probably like the funniest stat that could be pulled out. It's like they propped him into the lineup and during a winning streak, they're like, let's give it a shot. And it's went horribly, horribly wrong. I think Zaitsev being waived is really important simply because this team is bad when he is on the ice. And yesterday was a perfect example when he took one of the dumbest and most obvious penalties I've ever seen. Just grabs, I believe it was JT Miller by the face and kind of face washed him as he's getting blown by. I don't know at what point Zaitsev became a AHL defenseman. I think it was probably after the first year that we had him. And then it's just been a steady decline, but every time I see him playing, it's pretty it's pathetic. And it makes me sad because you don't want to consistently pile on a guy and be cheering that he got sent down to the AHL, but here we are. And I actually watched Moneyball today, and I saw people likening what he was what Dorion did with Zaitsev to, when Billy Bean traded Michael Pena and was like, you can't play him at first base because I traded him. And it's just that scenario now where Dorion goes, yeah, you can't play Zaitsev tonight. He's like, well, I am. It's like, no, because he's in the AHL. Like that's the beauty of the game sometimes. I think Jacob Bernard Docker had a really good game last night, and that kind of just sealed the fate for him, in my opinion, anyways.
Which thankfully, and I mean, I don't want to keep throwing Zaitsev under the bus. I mean, there's a lot going around about him that I think kind of crosses over the line of like dumping on him as a player and kind of goes into some more personal stuff. So, yeah, he's not a good player. I wish the best for him, but JBD coming into the lineup and taking Zaitsev's role is desperately needed by this team to really move on from that era of rebuild and always rolling our eyes when the defense make a mistake. And I know there's other guys in the lineup that are guilty of that. And, we could point to some other names who have underachieved, especially defensively this season. But I think it's just really notable that Zaitsev, the game's just kind of passed him by. And it sucks to say that, but it is like, it's just, he's not fast anymore. He gets beat to the outside, and then that's what happens. Like Matt said, when he just pulls on JT Miller's mask or whatever, slow him down because he loses that step. Hamonic does it sometimes too, and I think he's the next one on the blue line that is really going to be on his way out. And yeah, I think this was just, it was time for a change. I'm glad that JBD got a shot, and I'm glad that DJ has recognized that he came in and he looked good and he's here to stay in the short term. And that is extremely important. And I hope that becomes long term because, boy, the Sens need something on the defensive end to go right for them.
Yeah. Speaking of Hamonic, he got absolutely torched all night last night.
Hey, he had that nice goal though. Nice clapper.
He did, yeah, he had the nice goal, but I think he as you pointed out, I think he's the next guy that's probably going to be looked at. And Sanderson has been propping him up. And I know there was some people on Twitter being like, "Oh, like his advanced stats say otherwise." And it's like, well, it doesn't though. He doesn't pass the eye test. And if advanced stats and eye tests don't match, that's where I have an issue. It's like, we've seen with like Brady Tkachuk's defense and some models, it just doesn't connect. And so I think that is going to be the next big move. I have no idea where it's going to come from. I'm now locked in on Colton Parayko because St. Louis is real bad.
My
They're worse than
only
we are.
My only issue, because I looked at Parayko's contract the other day, he's signed in at 8 more years and he's already 29 years old. So it's like, do you want to take that gamble? Because I certainly don't.
He signed in for 8 more years.
Yes, sir. He signed a
Oh
contract
my
extension.
goodness. Like this off season. Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Yeah, you don't want that contract, my friend. So
Apparently
maybe we
not.
should just take a step back on that one. But I appreciate where you're coming from. I do think, honestly, a guy like Marino who went to the Devils this summer, Ryan Bonus had an inside track on this guy. He, being from the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, really would have known him well. Now Marino and Graves are ranked, I think, in the top 10 of defensive shutdown pairings in the league. And I think if you would put a guy like Marino with Jake Sanderson, we would not be on talking about like this 7 game losing streak right now, or sorry, 6 game losing streak right now. I think things would be a bit different if you had a steady defensive player like him. But hopefully, Zoop's coming back soon. Really, to me, that's the reason why the Sens are clearing up a couple roster spots. Must mean that Zoop's coming back soon, and yeah, so we can look forward to that. And kind of on this line of topic. Is it time to panic? Because like I just brought up, 6 game losing streak for the Sens, going from 4-2 to now 4-8, bottom of the Atlantic. It's in free fall. And yeah, I'll kick it off with you, other Matt. Like, what do you think about this?
It's hard right now. I was watching the game yesterday and I looked at my buddy. I was like, we have to win this game. Like we have to win this game. It's not an option if we don't. And we lost it. We found a way to lose it. And I think that's been the biggest problem. I see a lot of people blaming various things, and I think it was a bit of a collective effort. Talbot wasn't amazing. Hamonic got torched. Like he was bad on the second goal where Mikheyev just like beat him clean, and then Talbot, got beat again. So it's one of those issues where you see things going right, and that like we dominated the Canucks. There's no doubt that we dominated the Canucks. We got goalied, we got all this other things, but at a point, moral victories isn't enough. Like when we came back against Vegas, but just to fall short. When we, lose to Philly, but we get goalied by Carter Hart. And then now we lose a game similar to the fashion that Tampa Bay beat us a few games ago when we absolutely dominated and then got dominated. It's really frustrating. And we heard that Pierre Dorion has the full confidence. Pierre Dorion speaks in the third person, and Pierre Dorion is a loyal person. And Pierre Dorion is not going to fire DJ Smith because Pierre Dorion loves DJ Smith. And I don't know. Like at a point, somebody needs to be a scapegoat. And it's probably the coach.
Bennett, what are you thinking about the whole 6 game losing streak?
Yeah, obviously losing 6 games in a row is never good. And it's especially not good when, we started off that homestead against Boston when we rattled off 4 wins in quick succession. All of a sudden, the vibes were back, the Sens were back, everything looked good. And then we lose a couple of games to Minnesota and Florida, and even Tampa, arguably, where you would expect those to be tough games for us, but these Vegas, Philly, and Vancouver games, I mean, some of these are good teams, but some of these are teams that, we would really want to be beating. And we haven't been getting blown out in these games, which is my one asterisk to this losing streak. I mean, there have been times in the last couple of seasons where the Sens were losing and they were losing bad every single time. And these are all essentially 1-goal games, because I'm looking at it, and most of these ones where there's a 2-goal margin, there is an empty net goal. So these are games where the Sens are in it until the very end of the third period. And so it sucks to lose, but I don't think that we're really getting dominated. I mean, we shipped 40 and 58 shots in those Minnesota and Florida games, but those shot totals have come down in the last few. So I don't even think that's necessarily like a huge talking point anymore. But the wins have to come from somewhere. And I know that DJ is getting a lot of hate from Sens fans right now. And to a certain extent, it's always on the coach when the team's playing badly. I think that getting Zaitsev out of the lineup is a big bonus. And, that can open up some possibilities for the team to not be starting in a hole every game just by having him there. I think that I don't think the DJ necessarily deserves to be fired. I don't think that he will be fired because, like other Matt was saying, Dorion has a lot of faith in him. The players seem to have faith in him. I don't think getting rid of the coach would be the worst option because it can kickstart the team in a way, and that's been demonstrated time and time again over the years that firing the coach usually leads to a positive bounce. So it wouldn't be a terrible idea necessarily. That being said, I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, something has to change, right? And, we're hoping that personnel moves are the way to do it. And we're starting to see, JPD in, Zaitsev out. That's a positive change that can get us somewhere. Getting Zub back would be a huge upside for this team because all of a sudden, if you have two reliable guys on the right-hand side and you only have to pick between one of a Hamonic or Holden, then that's already an improvement. So I think that there's a path forward for this team without having to make any personnel changes behind the bench. But yeah.
So it was interesting because today I heard Dave Smart talking on TSN 1200, and he was talking about, because he's a consultant for the team, and he said he goes to the rink 4 times a week or something like that. And he said he sees the bond between DJ and the locker room. And he said if the guys had lost their willingness to play for the coach, or if they didn't buy into his system, I know people will debate whether he has a system or not, but that's maybe a topic for another time. But he said essentially if there was no buy-in from the team, that they would not have played how they played against the Canucks through 2 periods.
Mm-hmm.
They were utterly dominating Vancouver, and it was shocking that they were not up like 5-1 by the end of the second period. So that's something that I think we should take note of. And I also see a lot of blame for DJ Smith. And hey, don't get me wrong. If he was fired and a new coach came in and it ignited the team, I'd be happy. I just want to see results. I don't care whether that means new coaching staff, new personnel, but I would like to see a Sens team that is easily a playoff team. When you're watching games, you're like, I see it. They're a playoff team. That's what I want. But what I'm curious about is if the players really love DJ Smith and our defensive system is really failing the team, does it not make more sense to be like, hey, listen, DJ, we don't think that our defense coach is cutting it. If they let go of Jack Capuano and looked for a new coach who is willing to come in as a defensive systems coach, I would be really curious about that option too. Because then you're not then you're not messing up like the buy-in or the love of the coach that the players have. You're bringing in a new coach who might be able to really help with that defensive structure that DJ Smith seems to maybe, or Jack Capuano and DJ Smith seem to struggle with. So that's just something that I kind of like thought about. I mean, it would be rare to see something like that happen, but it's just something that I thought was maybe a little bit interesting to discuss. But Bennett kind of No, sorry, I was just gonna say Bennett kind of gave me a clear answer, but Matt, I was actually gonna go to you anyway. So do you think that DJ Smith should be fired, or do you think a personnel change should be made? Like, what exactly do you think on this situation here?
I sort of go back and forth because I think this team has been extremely unlucky. Advanced analytics suggests that we are just that, very, very unlucky. DeBrincat got robbed 3 times yesterday. Drake Batherson had a goal, like a puck cross the goal line, and not bounce in. Things of that nature. Those are when you get a win because of a lucky bounce. I just think at this point we're unlucky. I did say before this season started, I said if we're in a hole by game 15 or 20, like we need to start looking at firing DJ Smith. Listen, I don't have a lot of confidence in a guy who looks at Nikita Zaitsev and looks at Nick Holden and chooses to put Nikita Zaitsev in. And it's either Nick Holden is hurt or nothing at all. That's the only reason he should be in the lineup. But there's been nothing to suggest that that's the case. So to me, Nick Holden and Brandstrom has been a solid pairing. Zaitsev with anybody is a train wreck. And these are where decisions come down to the coach, period. End of story. He's the guy that determines who's going into the lineup. And I think Zaitsev's been his pet project since his days in Toronto. And now his toy is gone. And now we need to see something actually happen because I'm sick and tired of watching a guy get put in on the merits of what he did one time in the NHL as opposed to
rookie season or whatever.
Yeah, his rookie season. He had a great season, but then has been really bad the rest of his NHL career. So why is a guy getting in over a guy like Nick Holden? Or what was the point of bringing up Dylan Hetherington or bringing up JBD for that matter for the first time and then sending him back down? If there's no willingness to change things, we're just watching the same thing over and over again. So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in DJ Smith when he says, yeah, Nikita Zaitsev needs to go in that lineup. When they have JBD and Maxence Garnett and Lassie Thompson, who the formers had really, really good preseasons, and Lassie had a good season last year compared to Nikita Zaitsev, all of those guys should be in the lineup before him. And that's where I have an issue. So at what point do we start looking at the coach for that?
So let me rephrase the question. Instead of whether you think the coach should be fired or anything, do you guys think it's time to panic yet? Like Bennett, are you in the mode where you think the season's done for, tank for Bedard? Because I've seen that a lot popping up on Twitter.
No.
What's the mindset? Yeah.
No.
Okay, so both of you are saying it's not time to panic, but I'll let Bennett kind of give a little brief on why he thinks it's not time to panic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just point to two things. One is that this team is way better than it was last year. I mean, the record might not really show that right now, but we know just by watching that this team is better. They have weapons on offense. They have guys who can play defense most of the time, mostly on the left-hand side right now. But with a couple of key changes that we're already starting to see, I think that we can put together a competent defense. We've gotten good goaltending most nights. Forsberg has been very solid. Talbot's going to put it together. I'm not worried about him. So on paper, this team is so much better than it was last year. And again, these are close games. We're not getting blown out. We're not getting dummied by teams. Like we were getting just absolute windmill donked on by teams last year. Just like getting, like when we played Vancouver at a similar kind of time last year, they just completely embarrassed us. Like it was terrible. And like we were just saying, like in this game, like we totally had the better of them for 2 periods and lost a really close contest. And so I'm not worried about this team going forward. I think that we've seen a couple of positive changes, getting Zaitsev out, JBD in, getting Zub back. We will eventually get Norris back, although probably not in time for him to make too much of a difference in the overall trajectory of our season. But I think that there's still been a lot of progress since last year. And I'm not ready to start, pushing the panic button.
And I'll flip it over to other Matt in a second, but I just wanted to add, I know there will be some people who disagree with saying, oh, it's the same old team. No, they're just as bad as last season. I think it was on, I want to say TSN 1200 again today, that they were discussing, I believe it was like the expected goals for. And last season, they were sitting at like 30th in the league, something ridiculously bad. In the expected goals for. And then this season, they're up to like 6th or 8th in the league. Like they are dominating offensively compared to what they were doing last year. And I also saw some people who were upset that guys like Alex DeBrincat were laughing when they were getting robbed. I mean, for me, when I'm laughing, I usually am extremely frustrated or like, sometimes you just laugh because you just can't believe something. And I think Alex DeBrincat's like, like, man, when I was in Chicago, these were going in every time.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
41 goals last season, He's probably thinking like, what do I have to do to get a goal right now? Who do I have to pay off? Can I cut a hole in a guy's trapper and just shoot there and at the beginning of a game before he notices, it's brutal. And I think the goals for DeBrincat are going to come. Giroux's playing actually above a level that I thought he would. He's already, I believe, at 7 goals this season. And last year he had like 20, just over 20. So I think that he's on pace to have a better offensive season, at least goal production wise than last year, which is amazing. And yeah, like Tim Stützle's almost point per game. Kachuk's over point per game. Like all the offensive guys that you want are producing. And yeah, like Bennett said, losing Norris hurts. That does hurt. And losing Zub for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it's been now, that hurts your team a lot too. And I think hopefully by the time Norris comes back, it's almost like a trade deadline ad versus, all right, well, let's finish off the season, cut and dry, like another good draft pick. We don't want that. So we'll see what happens, but I'll bring it back to you, other Matt. Do you think it's time to panic?
No, and I think Bennett really outlined it quite well. I think the point about all of our top 6 forwards have 11 points or more. That's a good problem to have. I think DeBrincat's going to start scoring in bundles sooner rather than later. And our defense, with the addition of JBD, and then let's see where other people might be placed. I'm really hoping we don't see that much of Hamonic on a second pair, if at all, anymore. I don't think it's time to panic yet. I think people are overblowing things, but by game 20, that's when it's dire. If you're not at 500 by game 20, that's when the situation becomes really tough, and you have to start stringing 6, 7, 8 game winning streaks together to get back into the playoff hunt. So let's hope there's a possibility of doing that soon.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to not rock the boat here, but I'm in agreement with both you guys. I don't think it's time to panic yet. Am I frustrated? Yes. Am I upset with the results? 100%. And I think that you can definitely criticize the team and be upset and whatever you like. And if you're done with the season, you're done with the season. I disagree with that mentality, but I think there's still lots of time to turn around. A lot of people refer to the Blues in 2019. Look at Ottawa in 2015. Remember how garbage the Senators were in 2015?
And they ended up, baby.
Yeah, and they ended up making the playoffs. And I know like the team is miles better this year than they were in 2015, that roster. So I think the pieces are in place. Like Bennett said, most of the pieces are in place for this team to be successful. It's just getting their crap together, if you will, and just playing up to their abilities of what they're capable of. So anyway, all that to say, I'm in agreement. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet, but it's a question worth asking after the Sens have come out of the gate almost exactly like they have last season, the season before, just really not getting a lot of wins out of the gate. So on that note, let's turn over to something a little bit more positive. As we know, rumors are flying left, right. Ryan Reynolds interested in buying the Sens, and we're like, okay. And then he was on the Jimmy Fallon show and was like, yeah, man, I'm interested, but I need somebody with deep, deep pockets because owning a team ain't cheap. And then, boom, lo and behold, he's at the Sens Canucks game, taking it in from the box. The PA announcers all over it. The players are excited. The fans are excited. He's not hiding the fact that he's there. I believe in the same box was like Anthony LeBlanc. So like team executives are chatting with him. That's really interesting. And I kind of want to know your guys' thoughts. And, what is the Ryan Reynolds hype meant to, or what do you think it symbolizes for this team?
What's up, Sens fans? NFL Sundays are only getting better, and so are the incredible offers at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sport betting partner of the NFL. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win, and then get $200 in free bets if they do. Right now, everyone can earn up to 100% boost with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sports app, place a same game parlay,
and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, and point totals. I've been using DraftKings mostly on hockey, but it's been a great experience and I highly recommend it. With bigger payouts than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is my go-to when betting on the NFL. Download DraftKings Sportsbook now, use promo code THPN, and place a $5 pregame moneyline bet to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code THPN.
I think it's interesting. I like many people, I assumed that the rumors were just that, but then to see him confirm it multiple times publicly and then show up at the game to express his interest is really interesting. I think that we all know that this is going to end up being a consortium of owners, of which Reynolds, if he is involved, will be a minor part because, like he was saying, he's going to need somebody with way deeper pockets than him to take the lead on this. I think that the biggest advantage to all of this is I don't care if Reynolds is involved with the team in any capacity, but to see public hype being built around the team and that there are not just, people, but famous people that are interested in getting involved is going to help drive up the price of the team. It's going to help encourage other buyers and interested parties to come forward. And it's going to make for a process which will lead to ultimately like the team benefiting from all of the extra interest. So that's the main advantage as I see it.
Yeah, exactly, Bennett. He's one of those guys that is a polarizing figure. People love him. He has international stardom, and being connected to the Ottawa Senators like that, and already like being front and center as a almost like an ambassador trying to get involved with something. He directly said, "Yeah, I want to buy the Ottawa Senators" on Jimmy Fallon. That has reach. And now people know the Ottawa Senators exist. And having that type of ambassador for the team would be huge. Obviously, if he can put towards the team $80 million, he's now a 10% stakeholder in the team. And I think he gets that back quite quickly because the value of this team when he's involved has good ownership. Has the new downtown arena. Our franchise is going to be $1 billion franchise in the next decade if that's the case. I think it's really exciting. I think you could have marketing events that really showcase the team, that showcase his connection. It's exciting. I don't know if it'll happen. I would assume the NHL would really like that to happen because how many times can you have like a star like him be involved? I know LeBron is part owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins with the Fenway Group, and also Liverpool, I believe, and a couple other franchises. These are things that athletes and celebrities want to get involved in, and having those people involved is a huge win. So I would love it. I think people around the NHL, Gary Bettman would love it. I mean, it's a win, and having Deadpool as an owner, that'd be pretty darn cool. Love the proposal. Great in that. Big rom-com guy right here. So it's going to be an interesting process, and I don't see the Sens selling for less than $800 million.
All right. Well, ended on that bold statement, but I like it. I have to agree. I think, bringing a guy like Ryan Reynolds into the fold is just awesome. The perspective of it anyway, it would be amazing. And yeah, bringing that visibility to the team is huge. A guy who is already beloved by the fan base just for existing and saying he's interested in the team, which is really funny. And even if he doesn't end up taking any ownership role in the team. This is some great Ottawa Senators lore or some canon to add to the origin story of this Ottawa Senators team that's on the rise. And yeah, so it's great for the team, great for the organization, fans, and you love to see it. I want to end on another positive note because this one is also some fairly recent news. Chris Neil, he's getting his jersey raised to the rafters, number retired. He's going out as the 4th Sens player to have their number retired in franchise history. Very exciting for him. They did the announcement in a really wholesome way where he was reading a script and then he realized, like, wait a second, my jersey's being retired, and his family was all there, and Dean and Gord. It was a really wholesome moment, and I just wanted to get your guys' takes on Chris Neil's jersey being retired and what you think about that, I guess.
I think that if this team had championships to celebrate, someone like Chris Neil would not have their jersey retired. And I mean that with absolutely no disrespect. Neil is a great guy. He's been super involved with the community. Nice family man. He's back in the fold of the organization, and that's really great to see. His on-ice contribution, I don't think merits, having your jersey raised to the rafters, but I didn't think that of Chris Phillips either. And I think that it's clear that in the absence of, Stanley Cups or President's Trophies or other things to highlight, the team's choosing to pick 3 of their most important leadership figures in the modern era and honor them that way. And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I saw a really great tweet that really sort of solidified it. I don't think Neil's playing career really deserves it. With that said, somebody said, great elite franchise lifetime players go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, but players that made a huge impact and lasting impact on the community, the city, and what it meant to be an Ottawa Senator, that is what gets you up into the rafters. And Chris Neil almost defined what it was to be an Ottawa Senator for a lot of his career. Hardworking, small market guy that did everything he possibly could when it was asked of him, and I think that's great. I loved the message that when he was reading it. I thought that was really special, especially for his family to be there. I wish Alfie was there. I think that would have been really cool. But next it's got to be Carlson. Carlson's got to get retired, in my opinion. And after that, I thought I'd really like to see Craig Anderson. But I know that's contentious with people. But
I honestly, sorry to cut in here, but honestly, I think it makes sense for Chris Neil and Chris Phillips just because of their longevity with the franchise and sticking with one team throughout their entire careers. To me, love Craig Anderson. To me, he's more of a Ring of Honor guy. Erik Karlsson, I love him too, but he didn't spend enough of his career in Ottawa. He was traded before he was even 30 to the San Jose Sharks, and now he's on his 4th season with the Sharks. And he'll probably be in the league for, I would say, another 5 seasons at least. And so to me, it just doesn't make as much sense. Ring of Honor guys, sure. And you could argue that Chris Neil and Chris Phillips should have been Ring of Honor guys. But like you said, it's not the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's who really made an impact on not just the ice, but the community. And Chris Neil, I met him a couple times actually. And one time was at a foundation event with the Sens Foundation. And he was really great. And one of my family members was in one of the foundation's programs there. And he was more than happy to talk with me. He was great with talking with my family and everything. And anyway, that's all I have to say. And I'm happy that he's getting his number brought to the rafters. And on that note, thank you so much for listening or watching the episode. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Discord. We're on all of those. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Senstennial Podcast. That's where you can find us. On YouTube, we just hit 200 subscribers, so thank you so much to everyone who watches us on there and has subscribed to our channel. We hope that we can keep giving you this content and that you're liking what you're watching. So thank you so much. Go Sens, go. Hopefully they can turn this thing around, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See you later.
Go Sens, go.